What's up guys, welcome back to Succumb's Garage. Now behind me is my 95 3000 GT VR4 Spider, and in the last video I showed that we had a few issues with the car and we did fix the wheel stud, and I did show that it needed a new axle and it was on order. So today I do have the axle and we're gonna go ahead and put it on today. So the axle we are replacing today is the passenger side axle. As you can see, there is a bunch of grease that has been leaking out of that boot because that boot is completely ripped off from that shaft itself. So that's what we're gonna do. So what you want to do is first thing you want to do is remove this axle nut. So in order to do so, there's two ways to do this. Remove the cotter pin. After you remove the cotter pin, all you have to do is go to your wheel, pop this hubcap off, the center cap off, put the wheel back on, lower the car. I mean, yeah, of course you have to put the lug nuts back on to lock the wheel in. Lower the car back down to the ground, break this bolt off, lower, and then raise the car back up, take the wheel off, and then you should be able to like freely just spin that nut off. Or secondly, if you just have an impact, which is what I'm gonna do today because I'm kind of low on time, is use an impact and just break it off with the impact. Then what you want to go ahead and do is remove the speed sensor, which is this guy right here. It's a 12mm bolt. If you trace that line all the way across here, you want to take this bolt off too, this, which is also a 12, which follows it all the way to right up here, and take that one off too, and that's also a 12. That'll give you some relief from when you need to turn this back and forth. That's your speed sensor. Go ahead and get this moved out the way, and I think you might want to put something to cover this up so it doesn't get damaged. Let's go ahead and remove our caliper. Here. I'm just gonna rest this on top of this. And now for the tie rod, go ahead and remove your cotter pin. And this castle nut to the tie rod is a 19. So what I like to do is put this nut on upside down and hit it with a hammer. But if you have a tie rod puller, you can use that instead. But you gotta be careful about the boot. And I do have to replace this boot anyway, so that's gonna be another time too. I do forgot to mention that you got to take these two bolts out from the shock strut, but before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and take this one off, this big axle nut, and that there is a 32mm. So this hole in the center right here, it's for a punch, so you can use a punch to punch this out, you know, and it'll come out. But in my case, the axle was actually already broken from the boot itself, so I can just push it in and out easily. And that was from the previous video too, so I didn't have a problem with that. Or what you can do is go ahead and put this castle nut back on reverse all the way in and just hit it with the hammer until it slowly moves out. Just be careful with it. So get yourself a 17mm open wrench and a socket. I always like to put the socket on the nut side and the wrench on the bolt side. Now you have all the wiggle room and play that you can to get this axle out. It's a little tough. And as you can see, it's separated from the inner part. And yeah, that boot is, I mean, it might still be a good axle, just needs a new boot. And I might just keep this and do another video to how to replace this boot. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. So the problem now is trying to get this out from the transmission casing. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and use a pry bar, put it at the end of it, and see if I can just pry that out. So I wanted to show you what it looked like under the car. You see all this grease came out. Here's the other end of the axle that goes into the transmission casing. As you can see, there's barely any space right here for you to get a pry bar in, and it's very, very hard. And I'm actually having a difficult time getting a pry bar right in here because it hits this frame right here and you don't have enough leverage to just wiggle that out. So I'm going to try to get a screwdriver of some sort, see if I can get it in there and wedge it in and possibly pull it out a little bit, hopefully. But yeah, it's you got like this much space right here. That's it. So what I did was this. I made this pry bar, I flattened it out a little bit because it had too much of an angle. I could not get it in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and try this out right here. Hopefully it works. Okay, that worked perfectly. Gotta get a catch pan for the transmission fluid. Okay, and you want to go ahead and compare it to the new one. Ideally you want them to be the same length. So I did spray some WD-40 on the end of that to lubricate it a little bit. So in order to put this in completely, go ahead and screw this castle nut on backwards. And you want to try to straighten this out, hold it as straight as you can. Hit it in until it clicks in. Just like so. So I just took a pressure washer to and washed all the area that needs to be cleaned out, so don't mind it. It's a little wet, but I am drying off this area that needs to be dried. All right, let's get this axle back into the hub. Right, here we go. Gotta watch out for that too. And these two 17 mil right here that goes to the shock strut, they are torqued at 70 foot-pounds. The capsule nut to the tie rod gets 36 foot-pound. Just make sure you can put your cotter pin in. Rotor on. Okay. These are the old lug nuts that I'm using to put in just to hold this rotor in. These two bolts gets to 76 foot-pounds. All right, last but not least, this there's a few more to go, like this wire, but let's go ahead and get this thing out the way first. Not last but least, but one of the last things to do is that. So ideally you want to torque this when the car is on the ground, but if you have a long bar or a pipe, and what you want to do is you want to protect your thread, is I use two lug nuts here and wedge this in between that, because you're going to be going down on it like so. And the torque spec for that big axle nut is 166 foot-pounds. And very last thing is your speed sensor. Alrighty. Go ahead and get that thing right in there. And then just go ahead and tighten that up. Tighten this up just like that, and then tighten the one back here behind the dust plate, and we're good to go. And there you have it. So there'll be some other things that I need to replace, like brake pads, outer tie rod, sway bar end link, things like that. Those will be in another video, and it'll be another time to do it. And if you did like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, like the video, and if you're new to the video, go ahead and subscribe. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.